lot of words fell out of my mouth then. I'm really not sure what happened. I kind of blacked out a little bit.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Deep Drop for another episode. Luke McCredden here, joined by Adam Ring as always. Ads, big week, but I'm just going to hand it back over to you. I've given you a couple of weeks off to have a real serious think about, how you're going to open up the show. You sort of tripped at the last hurdle a few weeks back, and I just sort of took you off. I took you off, put you on the interchange bench, but I'm about to sub you back in, mate. So away you go. What is the Deep Drop all about?
I reckon I've used just about everything that I can say about this podcast, but let's have a go. Where the Deep Drop is the podcast for the thinking fisherman. It's for the thinking fisherman that has a 10-year-old boy brain that asks too many questions without necessarily worrying about the answers. So what we do is we gather all of those questions. You and I brainstorm them, Luke. We get talking. And then we just start elaborating. We try and throw as much information as humanly possible from two dudes that have spent combined nearly 40 years in the fishing industry. So we try and gather all that knowledge. We try and think of all these questions. We're starting to get some unbelievable feedback and questions from our listeners via Instagram and via the deepdrop.au, which is pretty exciting. So that's a cool thing. This is an endless podcast about endless questions with no answers that relates all to fishing, and it's pretty fun.
That's good. I think you've nailed it tonight. Well done.
I don't really feel good about it though. I don't feel good about it.
You've done it. I think
just a lot of words fell out of my mouth, and I'm not sure what happened.
You've been off. You've been injured for a couple of weeks. You've played in the VFL the last couple of weeks, and you're back on. And you're sort of like, you're not going in full noise because you don't want to push that hamstring too hard in case it pings again.
Listen, everyone goes through a form slump, Luke, and I think it's just my point of the season where I'm in a little bit of a form slump. I'm trying hard. I'm preparing well. I'm getting plenty of sleep, drinking lots of water, and I'm ready to go. And sometimes it just doesn't happen. Like I said, a lot of words fell out of my mouth then. I'm really not sure what happened. I kind of blacked out a little bit. So I think another couple of weeks just to ease back into the game, and I think we'll be right.
Yeah. Oh, I think that was a good start. I think you're okay. So anyway, everyone out there who's tuned into this episode, firstly, thank you very, very much. We appreciate it greatly, and welcome aboard if you're new. If you've been along for the ride so far, it's been a journey. We've travelled through all sorts of mountain ranges to get where we are, but we're still going strong, and we've got lots on the cards, on the horizon, on the books that is going to add to the craziness that is the Deep Drop. So welcome, and thanks. It's great. But you mentioned Instagram ads. Another big week. We've sort of thrown it out there now for the past few weeks to send in to send us some videos that you find. Instagram's the wonderful world of weird and wacky anything. Like you can awesome. Just get lost you get lost in an algorithm of anything if you try hard enough. But obviously we're about fishing, eating fish. There's been some shocking displays of eating fish and seafood. But we've had some crackers come through this week again, ads. And there's been, if you go to the Deep Drop Instagram, if you're not familiar with what we're talking about, I guess they come through ads, and I just watch them and react to them and repost it, and for you guys to see my shock or my horror, or just like there's just some wow moments. Fishing is it's a weird sport when you look at it in some of these angles.
It is, and it's a fairly new addition to the Deep Drop content network, these reaction videos. And for those that haven't seen them, please head over to Instagram and have a look, because Luke, you've seen and reacted to things like striking too hard on a bass and ripping its lips off. More fish than you could poke a stick at that won't eat anything. We've had one of my favourites. One of my favourites was a game rod going off and just tearing the gunnel off the boat with it. That was fantastic.
That's fun.
We've had We've had young ladies eating squid live off the pier. We've had octopus egg soup. We've had piranhas as line snips. It's been an incredible journey so far, and I can't help but think we haven't even scratched the surface yet. So, Luke, a tip of the cap to you. You're doing an incredible job. I find myself waiting and hoping that we see one each day.
We do, and look, to be honest, there's plenty that come through, and apologies if I don't get to them straight away, because in all honesty, there's quite a few that come through now. I think you said last week the floodgates may open. I think they've certainly been wedged open to start with. So, but I'll be honest, I love it. There was actually one. Did you see the one with the guy using the plastic straw as split ring to put the lure on a split ring?
That actually made me angry. It made me angry because I have struggled to open a split ring with a properly designed split ring plier many a time.
I know.
I've busted plenty of thumbnail. I have
the thumbs cop it, don't they?
Yeah, opened way too many too far trying to get over the hook eye. And to see this clown just do it piece of piss easy in a couple of seconds with nothing but a Macca straw, it gave me the shits, Luke. I'm not going to lie, it incited rage.
Yeah. No,
but I was also a little bit impressed.
Yeah, really impressed. Although it's a bit politically incorrect now. Plastic straws anywhere near water is a bit of a no-no.
Oh, yeah, far out.
Try doing that. I think we did have a comment. Try doing that with a paper straw.
A cardboard straw.
Yeah. Disintegrate as soon as you look at them. But we do, obviously, and keep it coming because it's so much fun. But we do put in, we still update with the topics that we've spoken about on the the recent shows ads. Now, last week was a bit of a squid jig focus, really, across the board. So I wouldn't mind just touching on a couple of the points that we mentioned, if you don't mind, ads, just to circle back. We spoke about what is the drifter or sleeper squid jig, where the rod's in the rod holder, the jig's just out the back drifting along. I mean, we developed a whole new range, but that's another story. We're going to get into production with that pretty soon. Yeah. But we asked, do you run the drifter? And look, I think it's a resounding yes, absolutely.
Overwhelming yes. Yeah, overwhelming yes.
Yeah, absolutely. There was one of my favourite comments on that particular post was from Brody's Fishing. He said, I did it on Monday night, forgot about it and drove off. One combo I'll never see again.
Oh, no.
I feel like we've all at least nearly been there. And this one was an interesting one from David Borg. I run a sleeper jig when I'm whiting fishing. Always works for me. And I'm like, that's not bad either. Because that's just, out there while you're doing something else. We didn't even touch on that last week.
No. I like it, though. I like it.
Seems to do better on the bush, Bobby. Seems to do better on the drifters than I do on the rod. I'm actually working. That happens.
You're teasing them up, mate. It's all part of the plan. You're just teasing them up and luring him into the sleeper.
Switch baiting.
Good technique.
What about this one? S.A. Ross. Double sleepers for squid and flatties and occasionally have a flick. Double sleeper. I mean...
Double sleeper.
That's, again...
How many sleepers is too many sleepers?
Well, that's just a whole other question. Okay, and this one, which will lead into the next post from Dill, always deadly, being the sleeper or the drifter, and I shit you not, blue is the killer. Now, that's a great segue because we also spoke about blue squid jigs ads, and I think you and I were comprehensive about we just don't rate blue squid jigs. And that's us, each to their own. But we got some feedback. Michelle sent through, who originally spoke about the drifter squid jig. She actually sent through some photos straight away with some squid and blue jigs. I'm like, okay. Mumbo Jumbo Fishing said the Fuji Maru blue parrot. So there's just a straight up call out to that particular jig. So there was some comments around not for me. Ducky29, Adam. So I would have agreed with this until one day down at Werribee where blue was the only thing they'd take. And not a bad point too. You'd think blue would work more with all the pillies and gars around, but definitely not a favourite. So it is an interesting one because blue is probably for Port Phillip Bay the most natural colour in a lot of ways.
I feel as though what we could do with the squid. Hang on, let me try that again. I think I just passed out.
You're still a bit.
Far out.
You still haven't
I might
recovered
need
from
another.
the intro.
I might need
okay?
another spell.
Is
I
this
can't
going to be a
even remember what I was
tactical
gonna
sub?
say. Yeah, sorry, yeah, midway sub. I think there's one or two ways I thought this was going to happen with the blue squid jig. We were either going to get every blue squid jig discontinued forever and we'd never see a blue squid jig again, or there'd be so many people out there trying to prove us wrong that blue might become the new red and blue squid jig sales will absolutely skyrocket.
Yeah.
I can't get around it, Luke. I still think it's shit.
I think, and I think there's a clear, I suppose, something that makes the blue thing not being great. A clear image of that is the fact that there's really not many on offer across the brands of squid jigs that are in most stores. So clearly, it's not one that the developers and the suppliers are going, you know, oh yeah, no, you got to have our blue one. It's like a lot of them don't even have a blue one. So I don't know. Never say never. Do you and I need to? What if we just went out just fishing with blue jigs?
Then we'd do a follow-up podcast saying how shit squid fishing was that day.
Yeah. How long would we last on the water?
It wouldn't be a bad idea, though. We should try it. That means we're going to have to go and buy some blue squid jigs.
Well, again, good luck finding them. So, anyway. Love all that. So thanks again, everyone, for getting in touch and engaging on that stuff, because it's great to hear. But it's also puts us back in our place a bit, you know, or makes us rethink what we've spoken about. So the drifter, when flatty fishing or whiting fishing, I mean, probably wouldn't have maybe done that. A double drifter,
yeah.
I feel like it's a bit of a weapon. That one, bit of a secret weapon.
Double drifter's got tangles written all over it.
Yeah, you got to space them bad boys out properly. You got to be strategic on where you're setting them up. Or are you doing the old sort of like lure spread, like when you're trolling, where you might have a shotgun?
Oh, short corner, and a long corner with the squishies.
Short corner, long corner. It's not the dumbest idea.
Get the rod riggers out.
You'll avoid some tangles, I would have thought. That's just diving into our other conversation. Now, ads, of course, last week we also launched the deepdrop.au, the website. She's up and about. So thanks to everyone who got over there and checked it out. And a few messages came through from that too. So that's good. Like I said, keep an eye on it. We are going to have information around any live shows that we're going to be doing, but also merch will be happening on the website, the deepdrop.au. Go check it out, and keep an eye on that for all the goodies. Adam, I wanted to throw something to you, and it might be a bit of an open-ended type question, but it's something I've been thinking about for a while, and particularly with, and I know you've done a bit of travel this year as well, and as I have, and fished in some sort of different sorts of water and systems and whatever, and I want to know if Westernport could be a bit of an hidden lure fishery gem. And I can expand on that. But I understand the type of system it is, and, it's very different to any other system in Victoria, really, whether it be estuary or bay. But it holds some really, really good fish and big fish and fish that we would, predominantly target with lures in other systems, in other areas, and other sorts of water. I'm wondering whether it's an untapped, underestimated lure fishery. And if it's not, or won't sort of live up to the hopes and dreams that I think it could be as a lure fishery, why not? So it's a bit of I've thrown a few things at you, but what's your take on that? Westernport, the lure fishery.
I think it's waiting to be uncovered. But at the same time, it makes me wonder, it's not like it's a huge secret. So this is where I get a little bit torn. There's so many good anglers out there. Like, I'm talking legitimate lure fishermen, soft plastics fishermen, Westernport, like fanatics that know the place like the back of their hand. There's got to be something about that system, and that's probably the first question I'm going to throw back to the people listening, because I know some of these fishermen listen to the podcast, and I'd love you to reach out, because I need this answered for my own sanity. There's got to be something about Westernport that doesn't make it a really good lure fishery, because it's the first thing I thought of when I was away last for work and we're fishing up on the Clarence. The current hammers through there. Whenever the tide's running, it's running hard. So that's straight away. I thought, okay, well, I've just spent the whole few days fishing hard bodies and soft plastics in this highly tidal, shallow system. That's Westernport.
Yep.
So it definitely can be done. It definitely can be done. The only thing... So, okay, let's nut this out, Luke, because I think this is something that deserves our attention, deserves to be spoken about. What makes it difficult? Well, the tide straight away, we know that. I think the depth of water... especially on the western side of Westernport, makes it a bit of an issue. If you've got a hammering incoming tide and you're trying to get a plastic in 14 meters of water, I really think you're wasting your time, because I have done some bait sessions in there where I can't keep 14 ounces of lead on the bottom, and it does my head in.
Yeah.
But the whole eastern side, literally the whole eastern side, from the top, say from Turadin, all the way around to Coronella, the corals, the most popular snapper spots in Westernport, the depth is good. That's got to be a lure fishing mecca, right the way through that whole eastern side.
Yeah.
But there's got to be a reason there it isn't, and I don't know what it is.
Well, because I've got a bit of a counter argument for tide, but even potentially some of the depths. And when I say counter argument, it's more of an example of something that might be similar but different. The Hawkesbury. The Hawkesbury River is a massive system. But there are parts of that tears through. The tide just absolutely tears through. And there are parts that the depth is right up there. Now, I'm not going to sit here and claim to be an expert on the Hawkesbury. I've fished it a few times, but it's a head fuck of a joint. Like, as for someone like, who hasn't seen it or has only seen it once or twice, I would love to do it and fish it with someone who's well versed in it, because it's an incredible fishery for people that have half an idea, So if anyone's listening that understand and have fished the Hawkesbury to some success, I'd love to hear from you. Not to, I'm not looking for a free trip. More about understanding how you handle the tides and currents and depths, and there's such a wide range of deep holes for dewies, shallow banks for your bream and flathead and stuff. I liken it a little bit, just from my short experience there, with some of those parts of Westernport, and the systems you spoke about before. You can't help but think about it and put a bit of a like for likeness on it. Now, I understand that depth, and we've all we've been in those big tides in that deep water, and you fucking hell, it's almost like put a bluestone sleeper down and you might hit the bottom.
Yeah, exactly.
But to your point, there's a lot of it that's very fishable. And those deeper parts are absolutely fishable. You just got to pick your tide, So I'm with you. I actually think it's a bit of a sleeper. And I know it's not new, and people have done some unbelievable things in there. Like, we've seen the stuff that Winger's done over the years with gummies and, dewies and big snapper and whatever else, bait fishing. Has anyone caught, bit of a sub question, has anyone caught a mulloway in there on a lure?
They'd have to. And this is why I need someone who's well versed in it. There's no
Yeah.
theoretical reason why it shouldn't be a really nice lure fishery for those that want to go and do it. I don't know. I wish I could answer it, because it used to the excuse used to just be the current, but there's ways around it.
There's ways around it, but there's also there are ways around it. It's the best way to say it. But so on the flip side of that, well, not the flip side, but other options in there too. Now we straight away our mind goes to channels and heavy tidal water, snapper, mulloway for sure. But we all know that those dewies get up in the shallows and flats and around some of those, especially late evening into the night, whatever. But I also think about, I don't know if I'll get shot or sniped. There might be someone looking at me from a rooftop right now, but it's a pretty insane perch fishery.
It is. Well, it is, I think, very seasonally, as in
but
all of those feeder creeks, in Westernport have got estuary perch in them. All of them.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you're on east side, west side, doesn't matter. They're everywhere. I don't think it's a secret. There's heaps of them, and you can find them in all of them. I do know anglers that have caught estuary perch on lures and targeted them, and they're in Westernport. You wouldn't even say they're in the mouth. Yeah, you wouldn't even say they're in the mouth of one of these. They're in Westernport. So 100% that can definitely be done. But as is what typically the case, and I have done a fair bit of perch fishing around Westernport over the years. There are species that should be a lot easier to catch than what they are. I also think there's been a lot of change to those systems, those creeks leading into Westernport. There's been a lot of change in those systems. The grass isn't as thick as what it has been in the past. We've had floods, we've had drought, we've had everything there. So that'll all come back, and that will all continue to get better. But perch can be so hard to find. When you find them, it's okay. But trying to find them can be a nightmare.
Yeah.
But they're everywhere in Westernport. I mean, that's fishing, to be.
But again, this is what a lure fishery is. Yeah, it's a hunt. It's not just rocking in and chucking out a whatever and landing something. So I'm just kind of collating a bit of a list in my own mind of some of the species. Now, regardless of whether they're frequently caught on lures or bait, and we know Westernport, the majority is bait when it comes to snapper and whatever. But when you think about a lure fishery, you go through Westernport, plenty of snapper. There's mulloway in there. There's plenty of EPs around the outskirts. Australian salmon, plenty. Squid.
Flathead.
I'm just reeling them off. Trevs. Snotties at times.
Yep.
Flathead. King George whiting. Westernport anglers probably don't do it too much with lures, but it's an absolute lure fishery. We know that. Do you know what I'm saying? So all of a sudden, we're building up this list of species that are absolutely achievable with lures. Kingfish in recent years. Tuna coming right in. I'm just wondering whether I'd love to know if someone, maybe this is a call out for the deep drop pro team, the pro staffers, the deep drop staffers.
Yes.
Just fish it for 12 months, lures only, no bait. Report back this time next year. How did you go?
It's interesting. It's got to be. Said lures aren't new, so it must have something about that system that's just. Or is it the reason that it's in Victoria? Because if there's
a good point.
If there's one thing that Victorians don't like, it's straying too far from the path. We love our burley. We love our pillies. We love our 10 and 14 ounce sinkers. And we're happy to sit there all night in raging current and wait for something to eat something. It's just what we do. It's what we're about, and rightly so. It's highly successful.
For sure. Yeah. There's just enough. I always think about it. There's enough there. There's enough species there that we know will hit lures, whether it's soft baits, hards, jigs, surface, whatever. But then you could break it down and you could actually start honing your craft on certain pockets and certain areas. And, one I think we've spoken about probably ages ago on the show, and I always think about, and I'm certainly not as well versed in Westernport as I am in other bits of water, but that top end, when we know the snapper head up into the shallows to feed, God, there's got to be an opportunity to catch a snapper on top water up there. There's got to be.
Well, this has made me think about something, and I could be way off here. So please, if you don't live in Victoria, I don't care where it is, anywhere but Victoria, again, please write in and prove me wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. But the perception to me is, you have a look at what happens around the rest of the country. Let's use New South Wales, northern New South Wales into Queensland. We seem to give a shit more about how a fish was caught. In Victoria, we don't give a fuck. It's about who catches the most. Would you agree with that? So you can go and maybe it's just
break it.
So say, take some of those awesome reef species from up in Queensland, nannies, emperor, coral trout.
Yeah.
If someone goes out there and drops a big fuck off paternoster rig to the bottom and catches a couple of nannies and an emperor, we don't really care. But if someone goes up there and drops a small jig, or slow pitch jigs them, catches them, we want to see every photo of every nanny and every red emperor. Now come down to Victoria.
Yeah.
Come down to Victoria. I can hold up one snapper caught on a soft plastic, no one gives a fuck. Or I could post a photo of 8 snapper, 16 whiting and 4 squid and 2 gummies all piled up on a kill table or a bait board, and that's going to get more attention. We just seem to be different. We give a shit about how many, not how.
Yes.
Whereas the further you go north, we give a shit about how you caught them. We don't care how many.
Yeah.
Is it a thing?
Good. It's good observation. No, we asked on the show recently if Victoria was the kill shot capital. That's part of it.
Yeah.
A big pile of fucking fish on the deck of a boat or a bait board, and it's not a good look.
It's weird though, because you could.
Well, I don't think it is.
You go and have a look at all of the, I guess, better known or better represented fishers in Victoria. It's predominantly bait fishing. It's predominantly bait fishing. And that's cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking it. It's cool. But it's just different to me. And maybe that's why places like Port Phillip Bay and Westernport, because I would even argue that Port Phillip Bay is probably not as popular a fishery as it should be. With the snapper and the low flows, especially once you get into certain parts of the bay, the shallow reef. There's heaps of people who do it. I'm definitely not trying to make a case that there isn't anybody doing it. It is very popular. We just don't seem to care. Within the most popular circles of fishing, it's all about how many and not how.
Yeah. Oh no, I think that's a fair call. I think you're probably onto it. Yeah. It's a strange one, isn't it? When you think about it like that. So that's probably what, comes back into play with Westernport as a lure fishery. Is it because no one cares?
I think people care. I just think, again, we care more about how many. Because you're on if you were to go and do 20 sessions in a row on a lure and then 20 sessions in a row on bait, I think you're going to catch more on bait.
I think that's fair.
But I think you could argue that could be anywhere in the country. It's just I don't know how else to explain it. And maybe that's the question. Maybe that's the question for the tile. Do we care how or how many?
It's an Adam and Luke conversation. You've called me up. G'day, Ads. How you going? We have a chat, and then I go, I hit Westernport the other day, caught some snapper. And you go, yeah, sweet. I go, like, I just got 2. And you go, oh, it's all right. But then I go, I got them on trolling hard bodies or casting plastics. That changes your reaction, doesn't it?
Instantly.
Yeah.
Instantly. But it's weird, though, because being open and honest, if you said you caught 2 on bait, it's like, oh, yeah, okay, you did it right. But if you caught 2 on lures, I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, that's awesome. Talk me through it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, exactly. Talk me through it. That's exactly what I'm saying. Oh, how'd you go on Westernport, Ads? Yeah, I got 7 or 8 snapper. Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, just on squid and pilchards. Oh yeah, cool. But even that for me is like, oh cool. That's a good sesh.
Yeah,
I'm not that excited about it. With all due respect, like I don't want to ruin the moment for you, Ads. But I'm like, yeah, no, that's cool. That's awesome. I love it. I love snapper fishing, however it's done. But if you said, yeah, I've got 1 or 2 nice ones on plastics, I'll go, fuck, that's really cool. Tell me more. So you're right.
So what do you think needs to change where it swings from how many to how?
When will that vernacular change or that attitude towards what's better, or not what's better, but what's more popular, or what's more, in fashion?
Can you imagine?
I don't know what it is. If it is,
can you imagine a scenario where you can go out into Port Phillip Bay or Westernport on any given day and see just as many people throwing lures as there would be anchored up bait fishing?
I can't imagine it.
I don't think it'll ever happen.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it should happen. But it's just interesting.
No, the amount of people that we know that we'll chuck plackies for snapper in Port Phillip Bay. When you actually think about the times you're out there, you rarely see them. Like, we know heaps of people who do it, but all you see are anchored boats with baits out the back. You know what I mean? So it's hard to even imagine like what that looks like. Just drifting boats or boats on Alecki's electric motors in Westernport. It'd be cool, man. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it as one of those systems that becomes like a, you're seeing dudes up the front on the casting deck, churning that electric motor through the tide, banging out heavy jigs and jig heads and soft baits out into the, you know what I mean? Like I think it'd be cool.
Does live scope change your opinion?
If they were live scoping doing it?
No. Do you think scoping potentially opens it up?
Maybe. I don't know. It's there. It's there. It's up for grabs. People just need to have a crack, I reckon. Now, there might be people listening to this, Adam, going, you guys don't know what you're talking about. And
no, we don't.
You may be right.
That's why we're talking about it. We're trying to hash it out.
But this is why it comes up, because on paper, you sort of go, why isn't it a lure fishery?
I think
it's got the fish there.
I think scoping could open it up. Seeing what it's done in freshwater, where we're at a point now where, well, in the early stages, realistically, scoping was only done or heard about for Murray cod. It's not.
Yeah.
It's getting to a point now where people won't yellow belly fish unless they're live scoping. Obviously, the cod thing's huge.
We've seen what it's done with barra.
Bass.
Bass.
It's gonna happen, and I think that's where it could take off. It'll never be as big as bait fishing, but I can maybe see a contingent of fishers that would go, let's see what this thing can do at home in the salt water. And that's where
I'd love to see it.
that's where I reckon you could see the shallows of Westernport in those early season in particular, when those fish are up in the really shallow water on the mud flats. I think you could see exactly what's going to be happening. And do you know what when it starts, because I think it will, but when it starts, do you know what I really want to see? A scoper cruise past a guy anchored up and scope over his baits and go, fuck all there, mate, and just drive off.
Or can you imagine him just driving past slowly, just going, your baits are spinning.
Yeah. That would be the not holding bottom there, mate.
No. There's 4 banjos around your bait.
Oh, that'd be awesome. But
there's got to be people listen.
I think
people that do listen to this show ads that run the scope.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear from you and just your thoughts on it, even if you haven't done it. Like, just live scope better than Adam and I. We always just talk about it, but tell us what we're missing.
Yeah,
why you haven't been doing it in there. What maybe it's a secret society ads.
Maybe
have we just fucking unveiled something that didn't need to be unveiled, and now we've ruined it for people that are already doing it? I don't know.
Edit out the last 20 minutes just in case.
But if you're doing it, hit us up. I'd like to go and have a bit of a go.
It's got to be.
If you're chucking, all right, ads. If I throw to you, if I ring you and say, righto, this is what you're doing. We're going. You and I are going. We're chucking the boat in. We've got the electric. We've got it all set up. Not scope. I'm not worried about live scope, but we've got a day on the water, and we're going to just be chucking plastics. We want to catch some snapper. Westernport. Where would you go? I know it's a bit of a put you on the spot, but like but what areas are you gonna head to? Is it that eastern side 100%. That you spoke about?
100%. I'd be getting in around the corals, fishing the edge of the corals. Maybe pushing up, depending on the time of year. You can push up around Lang Lang, around Spit Point, around any of those.
Yeah.
Basically, just look at the map and follow the channels, depending on what you're doing. If you're at the top of the high tide, then I would get right up onto the flats. Where I think a lot of the success could come is that sort of mid-run out tide where fish are getting filtered back into the channels. So you've got an actual main bit to look at. Again, tide's going to be a little bit of a problem, but it is pretty shallow there anyway. But look,
But again, it's no different. Like, as in, there's certain systems that you fish, even if they're like, look at something like the Clyde River, Bateman's Bay. It hammers through there at times too. You've just got to adjust.
Well, to be
with what's happening.
Well, to be fair,
and Westernport shouldn't just be a blanket approach of it's too tidal. Like, make your adjustments based on what's going on with the tidal flow.
That's right, because that's what they do in those tidal systems up north. It's the tide's going to be running too hard. We're not going to fish that area, but we're sure as shit coming back when it slows down. But maybe that's another reason why Westernport is hard. Through those middle bits of the tide, there isn't really many places you can get in to get out of it. Whereas you have a look at some of those bigger systems that we've both fished up in northern New South Wales. You can generally go somewhere. You can generally go somewhere. Yeah. There's a lot of man-made rock walls and things that you can get right in tight, and brim will stack up on. And but my tip, I think people are going to start scoping it. I think they will. I think it's going to open up a little bit.
Sweet, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I just hope it doesn't put everyone else off and go, well, if I don't have a scope, there's no point doing it. When it starts, and it will, don't do that. Don't do that. Just go, hey, this is worth doing.
No.
And I wonder if that starts.
Yeah,
I wonder if that starts the how over the how many.
Yep. Yeah, I reckon. It has to. That's got to be the initial sort of, spark that ignites the how over the how many. I think that's a great statement, because you're right, at the moment it's how many, but how about we try and turn that into how? Because fuck, that's fun when you start trying to work out how, and it doesn't matter if it's one fish.
Exactly. Oh, one fish can be the tipping point when you go 0, 0, hit, or 0. All of a sudden, it's funny how many times when you're trying to work something out, you struggle hard early, and as soon as you get one, everything just seems to click, and you start getting them more often than not.
Yep, for sure. All right. Well, look, I think I'll be honest. I didn't think that chat was going to get that comprehensive. I love where it went. It's brilliant. And I want to hear from people on this one. Westernport, the lure fishery. Is it a thing? Should it be a thing? Could it be a thing? How do we turn how many into how?
Yeah.
As the conversation.
I'm fascinated to hear what people have got to say about this. How or how many? Because we seem to be so much different to other states. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I just want to put that out there. It's not a bad thing. I just think
different.
We've got so much cool stuff that we're not really mucking around with.
Yeah. Hey, you might even get an elephant fish on a soft plastic.
You might. You might.
Is that how or how many, or is it just why?
Why? Yeah, why?
That's not how or how many. Well,
there could be heaps of whys. Really, there could be heaps of whys.
Yeah. Yeah. Leather jacket. Why?
Why?
Why did it hit my fucking 7-inch jerk shape?
Yeah, why? I like it.
Hey, what's the go-to snapper bait in the crush jitty range?
Probably the jerk.
Because I'm going to put some time into the crush jitty this sort of spring, I suppose. Once snapper around, get up and about, because I haven't really given them much time yet. So I'm keen for you and I to put some time in locally. So what are we doing? What did you say?
I reckon jerks are probably going to be.
Or were you just calling me that?
No, that's actually what the lure's called. I reckon jerks are probably going to be 80%. But if you want to fish slow and grind a big fish, I reckon heavy hitters are going to be good.
All right, check them out, ladies and gents. They're going to be and I think there's some new stuff coming, isn't there? Oh, maybe I shouldn't have said
that. There's always new stuff coming, Luke.
In the future.
There's always new
stuff
coming. Actually...
All right, before I put my foot into it anymore, we should wrap up.
Actually, up shallow, Westernport, eastern end, imposter. The prawn tail.
Right, which is the
prawn tail.
Prawn tail.
But a little bit different. We know those fish get up in the shallows looking for mantis shrimp up in Westernport. The imposter, that's going to be... That could be a thing. Plenty of options.
Let's do it.
Plenty.
Should we do that? Let's do that. That should be our... When are we doing that? What's the best time of year to go and have a look at that, do you reckon? Like later into spring?
Yeah. Do you know what? Now's not a bad time.
Okay.
Before the water temp drops out, now could be pretty good.
All right.
Pencil it in.
Put it in the calendar. Let's go do it.
Pencil it in.
All right. Check out the deepdrop.au. Check out the Deep Drop on Instagram. And, of course, share the podcast with your friends and family and whoever else. If you see some random kid in the street, just tell them to go and listen to the Deep Drop. See what happens. Thank you, Adam. You have a good day.
You too. I've got plastics to go and arrange.
You do, actually.
I'm on it.
Get it happening. Get them ready.
I'm on it.
No time to muck around. Let's fucking get out there.
I'm on it.
Righto. See ya.
Peace.